Hello there, and good day to you, and Happy New Year to you as well. Happy New Year. My name is Mike Bullen, and you are watching Codex English. This is the series Newsflash, in which we have a look at two of the week's most interesting or most significant news headlines from around the world and learn and explore English through the stories. Well, 2022 is a new year. Here's to hoping for many more positive news headlines this year, at least compared to last year. 2021, I feel, was a year in which, well, it certainly had its fair share of negative news headlines. Let's just put it that way, shall we? So, double fingers crossed for plenty of positive news headlines this year in 2022. Fingers crossed indeed. So, without further delay, for the first time this year, let's read the news. Let's read the news. Let's go. Okie dokie then. So, the first story of this week's episode brings us over to the Washington Post news website. So, let's have a look at the headline, shall we? Okay, here we go. So, the headline is here, and it reads, "What is flurona? Coronavirus and influenza co-infections reported as Omicron surges." Right, well, now, obviously we're going to have a look at this word here as our first one. Flurona then. So, this is a noun, and this word has become very popular recently in the media, especially in Western media outlets. So, flurona then is the condition of having both the flu and coronavirus at the same time. So, what they've done here, they've combined the word influenza with the word coronavirus. And when you do this, it's called a blend word. So a blend word is made by taking a part of one word, in this case flu from influenza, and then taking that part of the word and combining it with a part from another word. And in this case, that's rona from coronavirus. So they've taken flu and rona, put them together, and they've made a new single word that has both pieces from those two words as one. So it's called a blend word. They are blended together, okay? And they made a flurona there, flurona. So having both the flu and COVID-19 at the same time. Sounds horrendous, sounds awful. So make sure you stay safe regarding that, okay? Right, so flurona, we know what it is. So coronavirus and influenza, co-infections then, okay? So, a co-infection is another noun, and this simply describes the condition of having two or more infections, which is another word for a disease, two or more diseases, infections at the same time. Co-infection. So, flurona is a co-infection because you have both the flu and COVID-19 at the same time, right? So there we are. It is a co-infection. So coronavirus and influenza co-infections reported as Omicron surges. Okay, so we've got this verb here, surge. If something surges, it increases very quickly in number or in amount. Okay, so what's the headline saying? Well, it's telling us what flurona is, and it's saying that flurona co-infections are being reported, they are being found as, at the same time as, Omicron surges. Okay, so that's what this headline is all about. So, let's have a look at a paragraph from the article and try and learn a bit more about this story here. Well then everybody, here we are in language focus mode. So, let's have a read through the paragraph here. Doctors have long been concerned about the potential impact of a twindemic, with influenza cases rising as COVID-19 cases threaten to overwhelm hospitals, and called on people to get flu shots and coronavirus vaccinations. On the other hand, flurona refers to when one person has both respiratory infections at the same time, which health officials say is a possibility as cases of the highly contagious Omicron variant of the coronavirus surge this winter across the world. Okay then, so then doctors are very worried, concerned about the potential impact. Okay, so potential here refers to what could happen, what is possible in the future. Potentially what might happen, possibly what might happen in the future. So the ADJ here is in front of the noun impact. Impact. So the impact or an impact is the effects that something could have. Okay, so if we put potential impact, we're saying the possible effects. What could happen? What are the effects that this could have on whatever it is that it is affecting? Okay, so in the article it's saying doctors have been concerned about the potential impact, the possible effects of what? Of a twindemic, Okay, so we've got another blend word here. So a twindemic then refers to when there are two diseases spreading around the world. So we've got the flu and then we've got COVID-19, both of them spreading around the world. So we've got twin, which means two, the flu and COVID-19. And we've got demic, which is from the word pandemic. A pandemic is a noun and this refers to when a disease is spreading around the world, internationally. Okay, so impact of a twindemic, that's what they're worried about here, about the possible effects of this twindemic. With influenza cases rising as COVID-19 cases threaten to overwhelm hospitals then. Okay, so to overwhelm something or somebody means to give him or her or it, whatever it might be, too many problems to deal with at the same time, to overwhelm something. So here, they're talking about overwhelming a hospital, which means that there are too many sick people to deal with at the same time. So that's going to be too stressful for the hospital to deal with, which means it's not going to be able to cope. So it's overwhelming the hospital there. Too much to deal with at the same time. Okay, so they're worried about that, definitely. And called on people, still talking about the doctors here as the subject, the doctors called on people to get flu shots and coronavirus vaccinations. Okay, so this word here, shot, has the same meaning as vaccination. Vaccination, okay. So a shot or a vaccination or a jab, which is another informal term for vaccination, is this. Receive a vaccination, receive a jab, receive a shot. It's when you receive the vaccine to fight the disease. That's it. There we are. Okay. So on the other hand, flurona refers to when one person has both respiratory infections. We've got an adjective then, respiratory. This refers to breathing. Anything to do with breathing is respiratory, and it also refers to the parts of your body that are involved with breathing. For example, your lungs. So both of them at the same time, which health officials say is a possibility as cases of the highly contagious Omicron variant. So we've got another ADJ, contagious here. If something is contagious, like a disease, it can be passed or given to somebody else by touching them. That's what it means. A contagious disease is spread to other people through touch. There we are, serious stuff. So make sure you watch out for yourself, look after yourself, and stay safe then. Okay, well that was the first story of this episode, which I do believe brings us to story number 2. Let's have a look at story number 2. The second story then of this week's episode brings us to the BBC News website then. So this story again is COVID-19 related, but this time it involves the world famous tennis star Novak Djokovic. Okay, so let's find out what's been going on here. Let's look at the headline. Here we are then. So Novak Djokovic, there he is, the name of the tennis player. Australian Open vaccine exemption ignites backlash. First of all, we'll have a look at this one, exemption here, the noun. Okay, so an exemption, noun. If you receive an exemption, it means that you don't have to do something that everybody else has to do. Okay, so they're saying that Novak Djokovic has received a vaccine exemption, which means that he does not need to take, or I should say receive, a COVID-19 vaccination, but everybody else in Australia has to have one. But what has this done? Well, how has it made the Australian public feel? Well, this exemption has ignited backlash here. Okay, so to ignite is a verb here. It's to cause something to suddenly happen. Cause something to suddenly happen. So that's the verb. And then you've got the noun backlash. We've got backlash there. So what this has done, because Novak didn't receive the vaccination, is ignited a backlash. And the backlash is public anger against something. So that's what it's talking about here. The Australian public are very angry about this event here. Okay, well, let's have a look at the paragraph, at one of the paragraphs at least, from the article and see what this story is about in a bit more detail. Right then, so we have two short paragraphs here. So the first one reads, Australians have reacted angrily to the news that tennis player Novak Djokovic will play in the Australian Open after being exempted from vaccination rules. Okay. Paragraph 2 then. Applications for medical exemptions are being assessed anonymously by two separate panels with inflammatory cardiac illness or another acute condition listed as valid reasons. Okie dokie. So what we've got here, we've got quite a few ADJ and we've got an ADV as well. So let's begin with this adverb. Right, so applications for medical exemptions here. So when you apply for them, they are being assessed. Okay, it means they are being checked by somebody and they are being assessed anonymously. Anonymously then is the ADV. Okay, to do something anonymously means to do something in a way that does not tell people who you are. It does not reveal your identity. So in here, in the article, it's saying that they are being assessed, the applications, so you apply for it, and then the people checking the application for these exemptions are being checked anonymously. Okay, so that's the first part of the sentence, comma, with inflammatory cardiac illness then. So we've got two ADJs together for this one here. Okay, so inflammatory refers to when a part of the body becomes swollen, which means it becomes larger than it usually is, or it's larger than it should be. Okay, so for example, if someone punches me in the face, then my eye will become swollen. My skin around here will become swollen and red. And we've got a second AGJ following it, which is cardiac. Cardiac illness then, okay? So cardiac means the heart, related to the heart. So then put them together. Inflammatory cardiac illness means the heart is swelling. It's larger than it should be. Type of illness there. Okay, inflammatory cardiac illness or another acute condition. What this means here is something very serious that can happen, or very severe, like an illness might suddenly happen very quickly. However, if it's acute, this normally means that it does not last a long time either. So, an acute condition listed as valid reasons. So, another ADJ, our final word here, okay? So if something's valid, it means that it's sensible, logical, acceptable, and reasonable. All those sort of words there put together. Okay, valid. Okay, there you have it. That was the second story of today. Well, there we go then. So those were the first two stories on Newsflash for 2022. Not off to a very good start, really. I know at the beginning of the video I did say that I really hope that we get more positive news to cover this year, and I still hope so too. I've still got my fingers crossed, double fingers crossed. for more positive news in 2022. Okay, so as usual, if you do have any questions or comments, feel free to ask me down below and I'll be happy to reply to you. And yeah, there we go. I will say to you, Happy New Year once again. I hope your 2022 is full of joy, peace, and above all else, I think good health. I think that's the important thing, isn't it, recently? Okay, so there we go. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again in a future episode here on Codex English with me, Mike. Thanks again. Cheerio.